Pleasure to be here with a set of eminent panelists. Without much ado, let me quickly introduce my panelists for a very interesting discussion. We have with us Ketan Patel, the Managing Director, HP India. Ketan, as many of us know, has a strong passion for driving growth, accelerated transformation with very large scale, transformation as he has in his career. It's a pleasure to have you here with us, Ketan.
Thank you, Ram.
Thank you. We have with us Mani Kandan, Senior Vice President, Legal and Secretarial at Computer Age Management Services. We also call them as CAMS. Mani is a fellow member of the Institute of Company Secretaries, over 3 decades of experience across various types of companies. But more importantly, Mani, as we know, is extremely passionate about rural upliftment and social impact. Mani, thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Kumar Anurag Pratap. Anurag, he heads the CSR at Capgemini. Anurag brings a lot of experience, over 25 years of diversified experience in various shapes and forms: CSR, community development, grant management, capacity planning, resourcing and project management. I mean, we are looking forward to hearing a lot from you today, Anurag. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We also have with us Dipendra Mathur. He heads HRD at Infosys BPM. Dipendra manages HR for about 12 global locations. Interestingly, he engages with about 40,000 employees and across 5 subsidiaries. I think that makes it really interesting there, Dipendra, and I guess a lot of stuff to actually bring the context of what we can do here in today's discussion, where we are talking about inclusive outlook and having a sustained impact, right? And particularly a sustained impact in education. So with that, if I may maybe start with you, Mani. I know you actually have been a very strong supporter of education as a cause, been a pillar of support for eVidyaloka over the last many, many years. As a trustee and as a board member of eVidyaloka, we meet every Saturday, and the one thing that we always talk about is engagement levels across various partners, and invariably we get to talk about a lot about CAMS and about you, and I know you've been a supporter over many, many years. So the one thing that we always want to know, and this is very relevant to the discussion today, how, we say investing in education is, travels the greatest distance, right, in terms of social impact. But what, in your view, would be the most appropriate yardstick or the measure that can determine such an impact? Mani.
See, basically, frankly, if you look at when we started looking at these CSR projects, or when the government brought in this CSR as a statutory provision, we were looking at more like another form of tax where we have to spend an additional amount. And there was no clarity on the type of impact it will have and all. But over the years now, if you look at it, the way in which the projects get implemented and the impact it is having on the society and all, we can see it is very huge. See, for example, the question what you are asking about the impact of education, while we look at the yardsticks such as the improvement in the grades or the improvement in the skill sets of the people, there is a wide, very long impact on the society as such. Because when I traveled to various villages, either through eVidyaloka or so other partners with whom we work with, we could see that it is addressing a lot of issues. For example, if you look at women empowerment, so this investment in this education through these activities is leading a long way. In many of the places, the local elementary schools were available at the village levels, and once girls complete that 5th standard, and then they have to travel for another, say, some 3 or 4 kilometers to the nearest place for continuing the studies, the people were the first choice was to drop from the school and stop going for education. And the girls were also not insisting on continuing the studies because not much people around them where girls were studying. But after this, when we see this eVidyaloka or the other classes, they have cultivated the interest in the subject, and they now insist on attending the courses. Now the parents are also willing, because when the daughter is saying that I wanted to continue the study, they are willing and sending them to the schools. So this is the way of women empowerment which is being helped through these projects. Another thing is that actually the communal or the social disparities we have in each of these villages and rural places, every place, whether with any of these organization we go, there is a one thing which is very eminent is the divide between the based on the society, or these people are not allowed here or something like that. So these programs definitely address those issues, and definitely that social when they grow up after with all these education, these types of disparities will definitely go away. Similarly, this another thing is when we look at the corporates, when we look for people with soft skills and all those things, most of the students in the educational that in the rural villages, they don't have those skills, and even though they manage to pass the examinations and all, they lack the skills. But now we see that through eVidyaloka and also other partners, with these programs like whatever you have even put the video and all, they have been helping a lot in the persons or the students to grow in their other fields also apart from this. So these are the yardsticks actually, like the social the divide being eliminated, this women empowerment, all those are the long-term yardsticks.
Very interesting, right? We're talking about creating skill development and readiness that addresses the need of the nation. And you're talking about inclusivity or reduction of division and inclusivity and actually driving empowerment. And I mean, the important aspect that I want to touch about here is, we're talking about diversity, inclusion, and social impact. And who better than Ketan and someone who believes in diversity, inclusion, and social impact with sustainability initiatives. Ketan, they say sustained impact is not about the individual. It's also about, or more about having a very large scale impact at the community level, right? And making the society more empowered through knowledge. Now, how does one drive sustenance? Your thoughts, from talking about scale and sustainability, I mean, your perspectives.
Yeah, Ram, I think this is the most relevant thing about how the economy and the society transformation happens. Clearly, it's never about an individual, right? It's about the collective might of how the power of literacy or education can make things happen. Like look at world over, so many countries and economies have advanced through sustained intervention in the area of learning. And you can quote many such examples across various economies globally. Let's look at closer to home in India, how we have evolved, right, in terms of back during our independence time, we were having a literacy rate of 12% odd, with around 2,000 odd schools and 27 odd universities, and our GDP was in the range of around 2.7 lakh crores. And there was no specific intervention around technical or vocational education. And infrastructure was restricted to affluent sections only. To today, right? And there are so many interventions over the last 70 years which has happened through various stakeholders, including government, NGOs, a lot of volunteers, private sectors, a lot of improvement around education policies, whether it be national education policy time to time or formation of national education mission, commitment of spending almost 4.5-5% of GDP on education. What we are having today is 1,000 plus universities, 53,000 colleges, literacy rate up from 12 to 78%, and now emphasis on tertiary levels of technology. Now, what has this done to our country? And that is what we talk about sustained impact for all and not for individuals. We are now on the path of third or fourth largest economy in the world. Much better infrastructure, much better healthcare, and opportunities of economic progress. Either it could be jobs or business. Indians, as most of us feel proud of today, are truly global and a societally acceptable people, which is making our Indians' position globally very differently. Our per capita GDP over the last 20 years is almost doubling, making sure that the lives of people is getting better and the overall living standard is going notch above. We still have a long way to go. There are tremendous level of dropouts, as I just heard one of the panelists talking about it. Student-teacher ratio is a big issue in the country today. Quality teaching, not just teaching, but quality and impactful outcomes is something which is important. Are some areas where we still have a lot of work to do. and we still have only 78% literacy rate. So we have 22% to go. But these interventions and continuous investments have made us where we are today. And as they say, that this is a journey, right? And this journey must continuously evolve to meet the changes of a fast changing and unpredictable globalized world. As things are changing, what we did in the last 70 years may be very different than what we will do next 50 years. And hence this evaluation has to be systemic, consistent, and scalable. And therefore, school teachers, college professors, administrators, researchers, policymakers, all of them and all of us together are expected to innovate the theory and practice of teaching and learning, and eventually measure impact and outcomes. Because merely giving learning and education is one, but eventually what is the impact we are creating brings in sustainable impact overall to the economy, to the society, and to the country at large. But this is one of the single most facet through which transformation can happen, and that's what all of us are very passionate about to make it happen. Ram.
Very interesting, very interesting. Ketan. I mean, systemic, consistent, and scalable, right? I mean, three very interesting pointers to this, and I think it was very nice and somewhat fascinating, should I say, to actually have this situation today, where we say, look, we actually have as a country, our tomorrow is we always look forward to tomorrow being better than today, right? I mean, when you actually are growing at the rate that we are growing as a country, that's a very positive situation to be in, and that's obviously and as you said, what brought us here will not take us there. So, the last 70 years has been a different trajectory, and as we move ahead, could be a different trajectory, which brings me to a very important point, right? I mean, if some of us, as we were watching the earlier panel discussion, Pooja was making a reference, the CEO of CRY, she was making a reference to a country where we actually have 333 million children, right, who actually are under the age of 18, and we as a country, as we have a quote unquote, a very young population that needs to actually be taken care of. And we all know, the concept of demographic dividend, as we always refer. And Dipendra, I do remember your chairman, Nandan Nilekani's reference to demographic dividend many years back, and that we are seeing that, in action today. So if I may come to you, Dipendra, and you work across, 12 different locations, from all the way from Australia to US to Japan to Costa Rica and whatnot. And I know you actually, been, seeing the context of how the demographic dividend that we are in today is well positioned to, reap. India as a country is well positioned to reap, right, by virtue of its population. But as Ketan just pointed out, it is also going to be dependent on the quality of education that is imparted, right? So I may want to ask, your observations, right, that you may want to share from either your professional or personal experiences, right? And how are we as a country, how are we doing on this front, and how much more do we need to do? Dipendra.
Thank you, Ram, and very excited to be at this panel. First thing is that we tend to overestimate change on a short-term basis and underestimate it on a long-term basis. And I think that all the points that Ketan and Mani have made earlier is about the fact that, we believe that we are moving forward, but not moving fast enough. But actually, the change which happens is actually starts off as an incremental change, but over a period of time, really makes a very big change in the entire country or in the entire society that we live in. The demographic dividend was, at one point in time, it was a curse when when the government started trying to curb the population. We saw that happening, and that same curse which was there in India, China handled it in another way, and it became from there. That curse actually brought about some good things for China, but then over a period of time started hurting China in a very big way. In India, we are fortunate that the population growth is now becoming more sustainable, and we are able to invest in several things. Whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, livelihood, and everything put together, we are able to make things better and better for the society in India. I think there are several opportunities which are there, but I'm